Happy Wednesday night, everyone. Welcome to Deep in the Plus. Thank you guys so much for being with us. We appreciate you. If you have not already, please subscribe to WDWNT TV for more great content, and also give this video a thumbs up as it helps people to find us, and we appreciate that. On Deep in the Plus, we like to go deep into the Disney catalog and find some rare gems. Sometimes it's something newer, sometimes it's something older, and give you our opinions, our views, go deep into it. And one of my favorite couplings of all time is here to talk about this with us tonight, and it is Lauren and Maleko. How are you guys?
Hi, we're doing great. Thanks for having us back.
You know what? I think we've told this story, or I've told this story a million times. Is the first time I went to you, Maleko, you said, let's do Lilo and Stitch. And I was like, I would never have asked you to do that. But you know what? You had so many cool things to say about it. And then as we started going on, you were like, okay, Lauren's the one who's really feeding me the movies we should watch. So for tonight, we're doing Turner and Hooch, which is, I was like blown away when you said Turner and Hooch. So I need to know which one of you chose this and why.
Oh, I'm going to have to take credit for that one.
Definitely
oh, yeah?
me. Okay.
Huge Tom Hanks fan. I've been a fan of Tom Hanks for as long as I can remember. I've loved every single one of his movies that he's made. And this one, I still quote this movie fairly regularly. So it's a fun movie.
You quote this?
I quote this.
I'm shocked. You surprised me over and over again, my friend. When you picked Mary Poppins, you picked Turner and Hooch. So like Lauren was, I guess, behind. What were you gonna say?
Mary Poppins fans would have wished I hadn't. I was so uninformed with that movie, and I apologize.
No. I love that you have already with this one. You're like, no. This one's my jam. I get this one. Tom Hanks. Let's talk about that for a second, because I had that kind of in my notes as I'm watching this movie. This is kind of Tom Hanks circa bosom buddies. This movie's from 1989. This is kind of like right when he was getting his start. What is, for each of you, what is your favorite Tom Hanks movie? And I guess, Maleko, why is it this?
Well, this is one of two, and I think they came out around the same time. The Money Pit is my absolute all-time favorite movie, and this is probably number two for me.
Okay, what's yours, Lauren?
I think I'm a little bit more traditional. I love Big, and I love Forrest Gump. I mean,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, that was probably one of his best performances, I think, Forrest Gump, sure.
Okay. And sometimes you look at Tom Hanks and you see whoever that character is. Like a lot of times you're looking at him and you're like, yep, that's Forrest Gump, all right. There was actually a time, and we'll talk about the cast later. I'll bring that up later when we talk about the cast. But when I'm watching Tom Hanks in this era, this is, bosom buddies for sure. This is, like you said, Money Pit, some of those earlier Tom Hanks movies. But his storied career is amazing. But it's also funny to see when you pull this up, how many of these movies are Disney movies. Big, Splash, and of course Turner and Hooch. This was a Touchstone movie, not a Disney movie. This is back when Michael Eisner was like, hey, let me make another movie house so I can do something a little bit more like less Disney. Like this isn't really very Disney in the way that we grew up with Disney. Is that Disney was like, Flubber and Roger Rabbit and like, Big, not Big, but like some of those things were all Disney. This didn't feel very Disney. But you know what? It's an interesting buddy cop movie, and it's listed as police cop comedy buddy movie. And I feel like, I don't know. I do you think Tom Hanks like regretted working with a dog the entire time?
There were a couple scenes that we'll probably talk about where I verbally, when we were watching it, I asked her, I said, I wonder how many times he got bit in this scene. He's roughhousing with Hutch, or with Hooch, he's roughhousing with the dog. And I'm like, that's a great recipe to just get an accidental nip from the dog. And I don't know, he did it really well.
And that's a big dog.
Big dog.
Big dog.
Yeah. That's that is a big dog. You guys have cats. You don't have
We
dogs.
do.
Okay, so we talked about this because wait, there we go. Aw, what a great family photo this is. Aw, you guys, you got to hit up the Sears Portrait Studio and make that official somewhere. We talked about this on like Oliver and Company, because in Oliver and Company there were, there are dogs, but it's a cat movie, and then there was The Fox and the Hound, but you guys are predominantly cat people. Can you imagine having a dog that slobbered the way that Hooch did? It grossed me out the entire time. I'm like totally
So,
distracted
That's
by
your
it.
favorite scene, though, when he's talking
with
about when they're in the
shoelaces.
car, because there's so much ad libbing going on and improv. It would seem that like the shoelace is hanging from the mouth, and then I couldn't nut. That's all I saw was just these.
This gross slobber. You just imagine how disturbingly dirty that house is.
Well, but that's the thing too, is they set us up at the beginning so that we're going to know, like, okay, the Tom Hanks character is definitely, and it's the opening credits. They're showing us how like OCD he is about everything. About everything has to be just right, and in the right place. Everything has got to be level. He gets a spill on the bread in the refrigerator, and then he has to stop and like empty out the entire refrigerator.
Whole thing, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would have just
He
been
loses
like,
that pretty quickly, maybe unbelievably quickly. I
Yeah.
think when the dog is introduced, it's like all of that seemingly goes away, and he becomes a different person, a more likable person. But yeah, it went away
Well, that's
pretty
funny
fast.
too. Is like sometimes you would think he wouldn't be likable. There are a lot of TV shows and things where like the person who is all uptight and whatever is not likable. But there were some moments in this one where the people in the neighborhood really love him. He is he is an investigator. That's weird too, right? Like they go out of their way to say he's not a detective. He's an investigator, and that's different. Like, I don't know. I don't know enough about police to know what's the difference between one to the other. But it was very like, he's an investigator. Let's talk about that. And so everybody in the town seems to love him, and every now and then he'll just come up with a little joke, and it's like, okay, he is seemingly a likable guy already. I don't think there's a huge transformation in that part, but you're right. There is a huge transformation in like what he's willing to put up with. Like when Hooch tears apart the inside of the car, and then he's like, "Look, like I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out for him." And he gets in there. He's like,
Or the fact, yeah, as Hooch is doing the destruction, you're like, oh, that's a bad dog.
Bad dog.
That is. He's going to be very angry at that dog.
but then he gets in the car and he's like, "Oh, you know what? This is gonna be David's car, and in a week, because I'm not gonna. It's not gonna be my problem anymore." He's, the storyline goes as we are introduced to Scott Turner, that he is an investigator. He's going to be going to the big city of Sacramento, I believe, is where he's going, which is the state capital, and then he's going to be in a different role. So he's training his replacement, and the replacement, Reginald Vell Johnson. Like, what?
Yeah, who I forgot it was him until I watched the movie, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been a fan of this guy for a long time.
Okay, so he was a cop in this one.
Uh-huh.
He was a cop in.
The wives.
Oh wow!
Yippee-ki-yay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not gonna say
And
it?
then,
Die
and
Hard?
then he was
No, Die Hard. Sorry.
a cop in Family Matters.
Okay. Right.
That's a lot of cop.
He's just typecast as a cop.
I had
As that
forgotten
co-
that his
That
that
funny
his
donut.
role. Yeah, I'd forgotten that his role in Family Matters was as a policeman, because I was gonna say he only
Yeah.
plays a dad or a policeman. Like that's all that he does. But it doesn't seem like he'd be a very effective cop. How many TV shows have you seen where they're like, oh, like in Parks and Rec, Chris Pratt's character couldn't get the part because become a police officer because of his like physical fitness.
Right.
Reginald Vell Johnson has never
Those
in
are
any
big
role looked like
buzz.
he was ready to be. Yeah. It's not great. One of the things that threw me, I get that a lot of the movies that we see on Disney Plus and older movies are older movies. This is a 1989 movie. But one of the things that got me like right off the bat for this one was the cars. Like, how freaking old do the cars look when they're driving through the town? As a matter of fact, my
Those
wife even said
classic
so.
Oldsmobiles and those police squad cars.
Oh yeah, when they were oh yeah.
When I saw this scene where that cop rolls through like that, I immediately thought of Beverly Hills Cop
Yes.
and the dozens of cop cars that were destroyed in that movie. And that's immediately what popped in my head when I saw those cars, because that's the kind of car that it was.
Crunchmobiles.
It's always Crunchmobiles. Good name.
Is that a thing? Crunchmobiles?
I don't know.
Look,
Is now.
Make it something.
I'm learning. I'm learning. Yeah. So when he's cross training his new assistant or his replacement, one of the things he's doing is being very anal retentive, OCD. I don't really know if he's got something diagnosed here or if he's just a very like particular guy. Because I think normally, and this may be a stereotype. Normally, I've found that like older single guys, like guys who have been single, have to be very regimented in what they do, or else they'll just be playing video games till 3 a.m. And like even sometimes when you're married, you stay up till 3 a.m. playing video games. But I feel like, like my son has always been like, I have gym night is this night, and a very specific schedule, and that kind of feels like where Scott's at in his life is everything has to be very regulated. So again, I don't know if he's like got OCD or like a diagnosed thing, or if he's just a snappy guy. I have no idea.
And that goes
everybody
into
seems to love him
with the storyline too, because he's, as you meet him in the beginning, as he's leaving this department, he's mapped out not just the next few days or today, but like the next week or couple of weeks, where he's going to finish work on whatever day and going to take a vacation and then start this new job. He's mapped everything out. He knows exactly, in control of everything in his life. And I think maybe that's the key. He's always in control. And, that's where Hooch comes in and just flips the script.
Well, and it's
not interested in your muffin, okay?
He
does not want your muffin.
It's very interesting from the beginning, though, how, like, it's a very simple movie. I mean, it's a buddy movie with a policeman and a dog. I mean, that's the basic gist of the entire movie, solving crimes. However, there are a lot of things that they kind of like add to the movie, like you're just talking about, like them setting up how clean cut he is and how specific he is, and then introducing the dog. The other thing, though, that I feel like they telegraphed from like 9 miles away was the seatbelt thing. He kept talking about the seatbelt thing, and it's like, seatbelt, like, and then then when you get to the point where he's, catching the bad guy with that, and he puts the seatbelt on, and the bad guy's like, why are you doing that? And he's like, that's not going to save you. It's like, is it though? So I mean, at that point, we're like, they're spoon feeding us this, and it's fairly well written, I feel like, and yet it's very simple at its core. I do love the part where he uses the dustbuster too, by the way, which is very 1990s thing to do.
It's such a great moment.
Do you have to do that with Maleko Lauren sometimes? You just take the dustbuster and...
Oh, absolutely. It's like right under the couch right here. Thankfully, we got gummy bears.
Yeah, those are not messy.
Okay. Yeah, keep an eye on those, please, at all times. I mean, it's a movie show. We'll have snacks, right? I didn't bring any, but that's a really good idea.
Got drink, got snacks.
I almost bought popcorn.
Wow.
Wow, you should have.
So.
Oh, how hot is it in Hawaii?
What does that say?
In here, it's 82 degrees, and that's with the air conditioner on. So we're guessing it's a little hotter outside.
Give us the report from the beach. So when we're watching this movie, though, one of the things that strikes me again is that he's very ingrained in the town, so that when the man in the junkyard, Amos, calls him, he takes it very seriously, and he goes to him. He's like, "Oh, that's Amos," and he's teaching his partner all about the people in the town, and he brings that muffin to Hooch, and by the time we meet Hooch, we're like 8-9 minutes into this movie. Like, it's way too long. We should have met Hooch instantly. I mean, we needed to have Hooch from the beginning, don't you think?
What an introduction, though. That scene.
Hooch is with
scene is
Odyssey, the Space Odyssey music.
Epic.
All of it was
slow-mo run.
Yeah, it's very.
And his face.
Yeah, it is very horror movie-ish, isn't it? Like the slow-mo and the no.
Is it Cujo? We don't know.
That scene, it's funny, we were having some internet issues when we were watching it, and so when that scene happened and Hooch is running and you see his face expanding and smiling, it paused, it buffered.
Right then,
and so it kind of froze on that for like 10 seconds or so, and you just had this great grimace on his face. It's actually really fun. Great moment to buffer.
But even if you're not watching it frozen, that's a disturbing moment. when he's coming at the camera and they're getting it in slow motion, and it's like the rise and fall of that flat face.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that face.
This one right here.
There it is. Yeah.
That's scary stuff. I have small dogs. Like, I love dogs now. I grew up with cats, but I love dogs now, and they're this size. They're still a menace, but they're about that size. I can't imagine having to deal with a dog this size, but some people feel like if you don't have one this big, you don't have a dog.
Yeah.
So
that would be my dad.
So he meets up with Amos and finds out that Amos is a little upset. Something's happening over at the fish market across the way, and he wants him to investigate it. But he's on his way out. He's going to the big job in Sacramento. But he takes Amos. He goes to him and takes him very seriously, and tries to understand what's going on. Then they get this call about some money, and all the pieces start falling together. And again, these are breadcrumbs that they've put together for us in the movie that. There's this tipping point in a movie where I don't want you to like talk down to me, but if you lay the breadcrumbs in a place where I can find them, then I'm going to get all excited about it. So, I mean, maybe that's why you love this movie, Malika. Do you feel like a detective while you're watching this movie? And
a little bit, maybe, maybe. I don't know. I was when I was growing up, we had a big dog, not a Hooch kind of dog, but we had a German Shepherd, and so it was a big dog. Like I could lay on him as a pillow and watch movies and stuff. And so I was always a big dog guy when I was a kid. So Hooch was always hilarious to me because I'd never seen a dog that drooled quite as much as
he did. You said that movie came out in 89.
89, yeah.
Yeah, I think I actually went with my dad to the theater to see that movie. And I wasn't that old, but because of those very easily laid out breadcrumbs, I think as a smaller child, I was still able to follow along,
So, Lynn, let me ask you this. Who do you think this movie is targeted to? Is it a family movie? Is it more of a date night movie? Is this a kid's movie? Like, who is this geared towards?
It's got kind of all of it, but I'd say it's a family
movie.
Yeah,
I think.
because there's the romance, and
there's romance. That's for mom. You got the detective shtick. That's for dad. There's some adult humor a little bit. The dog drinking beer.
There's a lot of dog tearing up the house.
Thing.
Kids love that.
And then the dog tearing up the house. That's totally that's a Beethoven thing.
Yeah. Oh, Beethoven, nice. Yeah.
Yes, that is a good pull. No, I agree with you. There's one problem though that I would like to discuss with you guys, and I feel like we're adults. We can have this conversation.
Okay.
There's something that really bothered me about this movie, and it's Tom Hanks in briefs.
Oh my gosh, there was so
lot
much
of Tom Hanks,
that.
I forgot about that.
Thank you for bringing
that
up.
I blocked it from my memory.
I mean, when he's outside and he's rolling around in the yard, and the hose is going everywhere, and there's the bathtub, and he's slipping on the floor. I mean, these. Maybe that's for mom.
That's definitely for mom. There's a lot of Tom Hanks there.
Really? Like, was Tom Hanks ever nominated as like sexiest man alive? I don't know.
I mean, reminded me of Tom Cruise in Cocktail, like the Risky Business. I'm sorry. Yeah, the young actor, male actor in briefs. Maybe that was something they did at the time.
Well, Tom Hanks had a lot of say in what went down in this movie, right?
Maybe.
I think he did. I think he had a lot of pull at that time. I mean, not like what he has now, but I think he definitely had more than just
still an up-and-comer,
your average Joe.
I mean, they
so
chose
that was like
black
a choice.
briefs.
Like he could have said, "I don't want to wear." Black.
Well, and in his defense, at this point in his life, he's not in bad shape. Like,
no,
I mean, he's not. But again, I don't need to see that much
of it. I mean, that's not for dad. That wasn't for the kids. That was definitely for mom. Again,
a little something for the ladies.
If only
okay.
If only for mom to be like, look, he hits the gym.
Right. Yeah. How many men got black underwear bought for them at Christmas after this movie came out?
You think
not
that
as
was
many
a
as
thing?
Risky Business.
Yeah.
There were also a lot of dog tears up stuff montages in this movie, though. right? So like there's the one where he goes to the store to buy all the stuff for Hooch, and then Hooch decides to start like just tearing the house apart while he's home by himself. And I mean, again, like it's offset back and forth with them going back to the grocery store and back to Hooch and what he's up to. But then there was him inside the police station, but then also Hooch in the car. There was a lot of that like montage of stuff that really kind of ate up a lot of camera time, honestly. If you get like go back in and look at it, that was a big part of the movie. Do you feel like that was really necessary for this to be entertaining for kids and or for us to fall in love with Hooch, or just filler? Like, should there have been more plot and less Hooch tearing stuff up?
No, these are Hooch's Oscar-winning moments,
There you
man.
go.
This is Hooch being Hooch.
Hooch
I
being
mean,
Hooch.
if I was his agent, I would argue that these were some of the best scenes he's ever performed in television, or in movies, because he's got the house montage is fun. Because as he goes through the house, he starts to destroy very specific things, right? He starts in the fridge, that's funny. Then he goes to the entertainment center room, and then it hurts. When he starts destroying the speaker, I cried a little inside. I was like, oh man, that's unfixable, And then later you see Tom Hanks trying to screw it back together, and you're like, no, dude, that speaker is, the woofers are blown. It's gone.
Is that a dog joke?
It's tragic for Dad.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't love seeing that kind of stuff, but like this dog was kind of amazing though. I mean, obviously shot differently so that it looks like he's doing everything all at once, but yeah, I think you absolutely fall in love with this dog, which is making it even that much more tragic at the end, which we'll talk about when I'm like, why did you make me watch this movie again? No, we're not going to talk about that yet, but we will talk about it. The past couple episodes of Deep, I've been trying not to do spoilers, but because this one's been out, oh my gosh, since 1989, I feel like if you haven't seen it already, you're never going to see it, and we should probably talk about all of it. But there's just,
you should have like a spoiler warning that comes up, like maybe turn the blue outline here red, and put the word spoiler coming for the next countdown. Spoiler countdown.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is about to be a spoiler. Please grab on to the handrails.
Mute for 15 seconds, and then we're back.
Yeah, no, that I could get that. But again, I think this is one that most people have probably seen, and they probably see the thumbnail and go, Turner and Hooch, I love that movie. What are they saying about it? And and we'll hear everybody's favorite moments and memories from that. I do love the part at the end of the montage when he gets home and he's walking around the house and it's all torn to shreds, and he decides to just start spraying down the counter like I have nothing left that I can salvage here, but and then all his pills are on the floor, like all his vitamins, and he's trying to like put those back, and then he drops
that
them.
scene.
Oof. Tragic. Yeah. I don't know. That's another one that really gets you, especially if you spent that much time. And he definitely tries to shake Hooch. He doesn't want Hooch. It's reluctant. That's usually the way these things work, right? No, I don't need a partner, or no, I don't need a dog. And he tries to unload him at the animal shelter, and then realizes that they're not going to take him, and maybe he needs him to be a witness. And then he holds on to him, and he tries to take him home, and he doesn't know how to take care of him. Very similar to like a 3 Men and a Baby situation, where it's like he has no idea how to take care of this dog, and then and then he tries to like shove it back in the vet's like house, which I thought was.
See, I don't mean to backtrack, but all that stuff that he ripped apart, I was just like, wasn't he supposed to be moving?
Oh,
Why was there so much still left in that house? Okay.
Yeah, he was supposed to be gone.
There were boxes, though.
There
were boxes.
There were in the opening scene, but that's, I mean.
But his stereo was still. You leave the stereo out till last.
Okay.
You want music while you're packing. They didn't have little Alexas back then.
No. Okay, if you say so. Let's talk a little bit about the cast, and we kind of touched on it a little bit with. Mayor Winningham. I'm not sure if I've ever pronounced her name correctly, but let's pretend that's her name. Plays Emily, the vet lady. I just started referring to her as the vet lady because I kept forgetting that her name was Emily. Tom Hanks as Scott Turner, Reginald Vell Johnson as David Sutton in this one, and then The other big name in it is Craig T. Nelson, and then Scott Paulin. Scott Paulin is the guy that plays Zach Gregory, the bad guy, the one who kills Amos. I'm sorry, red circle, spoiler alert. Amos gets killed. Scott is famously not famous. I don't know. He's one of those guys that, like, I've seen him 900 times in 900 different things, and yet I'm like, I wouldn't have known that was his name.
Oh, he's the guy in that one thing. Yeah.
He's the guy in that thing.
You know him.
Yeah.
You know him.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like being in an episode of Hawaii Five-0.
Right.
Yeah, how about that? Castle, The Young and the Restless, Perception, NCIS, Los Angeles, like ER. It's one of those things where when you read through it, it's all like one episode of this, one episode of that. But the man's was working pretty solidly, through 2014.
That's all you can ask for in an acting career. Maybe that's better than being a big star in one movie. Being that guy in that thing, but having consistent work your entire life, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Rather be Nelson.
But then, of course, there's Tom Hanks, who rose out of this to be, obviously he was a big deal already, but it feels like ever since he left Peter Scolari alone and from Bosom Buddies, he was just a rocket. And it seems like everybody's always had nothing but nice things to say about him. And then, of course, when he and Rita got COVID, the world was like, not our king and queen. Yeah. So
couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
I mean, basically, obviously, that's the problem. But again, it's a very small cast. So, I mean, it's not really, there's not a huge cast involved with it. The music, by the way, the score to this, and I forget the gentleman's name who wrote the score, but it felt like an 80s sitcom music track. Mm-hmm. Did you get that? Like, I was maybe 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
I was definitely hearing...
A lot of the movies sounded like that. It's weird, huh?
Yeah.
With that bassy twang and the fun little
We just watched
guitar.
your favorite. We just watched Beverly Hills Cop.
We did. We had just watched
And
Beverly
it's
Hills
just
Cop
it's that one thing throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, the same song.
I think they spared us from that in this movie, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
No, there was enough of it that it almost felt like an episode of Murder, She Wrote or something like that with the music in the background of it. So,
well, they're at the coastal town. That is very Murder, She Wrote.
True. Also Jaws, though. I mean, if you put that together.
Yeah.
Which is, Jaws, Hooch. It's the same thing. The guy who directed this also directed 48 Hours, which has a very similar vibe to me, only it's like Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy versus being Turner and Hooch. I don't know. But, I mean, that's a lot grittier. It's a lot darker, but it still, like, seemingly has a little bit of that vibe. That was 7 years prior to this, 1982. Actually, he was the writer on that, not the director. My bad. But he was involved with it, and it did have that kind of feel to it. So, I honestly, this guy did also direct Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, though. Are you familiar with that one?
No. I thought you
Really?
said Throw Mama off the Train. Different movie.
No. It was Estelle Getty and Sylvester Stallone. It was called Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Oh my God. Oh, that's a pretty recent one. I mean.
No.
Oh
No.
God.
That's an
No.
80s poster if you've ever seen one.
You right?
Okay.
Look at us.
I mean, it looks like the same typeface as Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, or Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, or one of those type of vibes.
So if you're Roger Spottiswoode, who directed this, and Turner and Hooch, which one do you put first on your resume? I don't know. But again, they were pumping out some movies around this time. Let me ask you a question, because you said that you can quote this movie. Therefore, I feel like you should be great at some trivia. Would you like to play some trivia with me, my friend?
Oh, I'd love to play some trivia. This is where I failed miserably every time, folks. So don't bet with me, bet against me.
I'll just be over here with a hot tea drink.
Okay.
Yes. Lauren is exempt. Yeah. And just a reminder again, thank you for watching tonight. Please give a thumbs up if you have not already. Here we go. You ready?
Yeah, mash that subscribe button, folks.
Exactly. In the front, that's
Both
not
ways.
even part of it, but I'm here for it. That's great. Let's like anything that you can do. If you want to post it on Twitter too,
Get
that'd
in
be great.
there.
I mean X,
Just
sorry.
Turn your
crunchmobile it.
notifications
Just
on.
crunchmobile it. Come on.
That helps the algorithm.
There was a drink, I'm going to say probably prevalent. There were two drink machines in this movie that were from the same company. Was it Coke or was it Pepsi?
Coke.
Yes, that is correct. There was
Yeah,
one in the
Diet
police
Coke.
station, and there was, well, that's
the-
a third placement. But the machines, there was one in the fish market, and there was one in the police station. But you wouldn't have known that if it wasn't for the Diet Coke he was drinking in the car.
That's what triggered it for me, because he specifically said, "I have a Diet Coke."
It felt
For
like
you.
it did feel like a sponsorship. Scott's car, you called out the cars
Oldsmobile.
and all that.
Oldsmobile, kind of a baby blue.
But the make, but what's the model?
Oh, classic Oldsmobile.
Yep, that's exactly it. Classic Oldsmobile. I honestly, I would have. I was going to ask you for the make, because I didn't think that you would know the make, but you were like right out of the gate. You said Oldsmobile. I was like, I'm taking that off the table. It's the Royale.
I actually see the word Oldsmobile when it rolls up, because I admired it. I was like, wow, that's a beautiful, really old car.
I mean, it was one of those kind of cars back in the day that felt like you were driving in your living room. Like if you ever rode in one, because it was so comfy and plush and huge. The Buicks
Bench
of the time.
in the front, so you could slide from one side to the other if you wanted to. They don't do that anymore,
Man,
kids.
you must have been a menace. Okay. When we meet Emily, the vet, she is wearing a lab coat and she has a lapel pin. What animal is on the lapel pin?
Is it a cat? Does she have a little cat? It is. Woo!
You
yes.
are correct. It is a cat.
This. Yeah.
I know. It's like should we make them harder? Is that the problem here?
And what kind of collie is that? What kind of dog is it? Is it a border collie? Is that what she has?
No, it's
It's,
like the mini lassie,
it's
but they're
the
not
beautiful-
they're not
A
lassies.
friend of mine had one when we were growing up. I thought you were going to ask me that. I don't know the name of it. I know what it looks like, but
I thought about asking you about the kind of dog, but I feel like I'm just asking you stuff that we would already know from the movie, because I'm not really sure you would be able to pick that out. But there's something really weird about that brooch or that pin that I looked at and was like, why did they go out of their way to do that? Like, I mean, I get if you're like a children's doctor and you have like balloons or something to fancy it up, but it just seemed a little weird to me that she had that pin. But yes, that is correct. You're 2 for 2. You ready to go the next round? You want to double the
All right.
money? No, I'm just kidding. There is no money.
double the gummy bears.
Yeah. When he goes into the grocery store to get all the supplies for Hooch, he's helped by a very helpful clerk who's going to make him do. Oh my God, there's some cheating. No, it's okay. You guys could do that. It's from a very helpful clerk who makes him buy way too much stuff. What's the clerk's name?
Kevin! He yells
Wow.
at him.
Yes. There's a lot of Kevin. Way to go. And of course, he rings up quite the bill at the end. What's
yeah.
the bill?
$97.16? Something like that?
51 cents. 97.51, because he says it like 9 times. 97.51. Here's my take on this. And again, you guys have pets. That seems super cheap for all the garbage that he got there for pet stuff. I feel like I walk out of there with, like, for my dogs, like maybe like 2 chew toys and a bag of food, and it's like that'll be $115, and I'm like, okay. Like,
I mean, he threw like 4 chew bones in there. Those things are $8 each, easy. You know, plus the giant bag of Purina. It's
okay,
funny,
this
though, 'cause
isn't
at
the
the
Price is Right, Maleko. This isn't like you don't have to match the numbers on the. No, we're good.
I also love that show, by the way. Also love that. But at the beginning, he's shopping for little dog canned food.
Yeah.
You know, the kind you buy your dog, probably.
Yeah.
And he's like, which one of these do I want? You know, and that's, of course, when Kevin introduces him to the big bag and then realizes he's got a live one.
You mentioned the collie.
Continuity.
Oh.
Was there a continuity problem?
Of course, she gets really good with this.
I'm the continuity queen.
Uh-huh.
Talk to
Kevin
me.
hands him that giant bag like that.
Yeah, Purina,
Right.
super.
And then when he comes home, he's got these 2 cute little little paper
Oh,
bags, and there's just tiny little, you know.
yeah. Well, maybe he switched them out because of the $97.
Okay, all right.
He's like, I'm not buying this big bag of dog food.
Well, that could have been, but I just was like 97.51 even in 1989 seems like it would have been pretty cheap for that much dog food. But you did mention the collie. Do you remember the collie's name?
Ooh. No.
Do they ever? I didn't realize she ever said it. Oh, she does. It's a very, like a lily or a, that type of.
What's the name of the cat in the last movie we watched? The beautiful, well-groomed cat.
It's not
Beautiful.
It's
He
not
asked us
Georgette. It's not
He
Georgette.
asked us that too, right? It's not Georgette? I'm just going to go with Georgette.
Wrong. It was Camille.
Camille.
Okay.
You were close.
Yeah, it is that
Lily.
kind of fancy.
Oh, that's the name.
Yeah.
That kind of fancy, uptight one. Here's one. And you guys have been doing great. The only question that I have left to ask you is two questions. One is he was reading a book in the opening montage. Do you know the name?
You
of the
showed
book?
it too earlier.
I did. I didn't mean to, but I did.
I paid no attention to that.
It's called 100 Years of Solitude. I've never heard of it, but I think that they were trying to paint the
But
picture.
again, sets up the moment. The guy is alone. 100 years.
Yep.
This is
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the one that you
Just
would
with that.
never. I agree with you. There's one you would never get, but I was obsessed with knowing this. Do you know what street he lives on?
Ooh.
I thought you were going to ask how many times he told his partner that he'd been busy that morning. That's one of your favorite lines.
Which one?
In the beginning when he's in the car with the new guy.
Oh, he said
Yeah.
4 times before breakfast.
before breakfast.
I'm exhausted. I have no idea about his street.
It's Bluff Street, Cypress Beach, California, because it was on his checks, and they made a big deal about showing his checks, and I was like, what? I was like, I'm gonna ask that. They will not know the answer to that one because again, it's at the very beginning.
We
You're
do
still
remember the
seeing
check
credits.
writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for you kids at home, that's how we used to pay bills, folks. You
Puts it in
tear a
the-
check,
Yep.
put it in a resealable bill that they would send you. You could lick it and send it right back in the same.
Well, so the cars obviously made it seem like 1989. The Nordic track that he had felt like
Yes!
it was 1989. The checks, obviously, and the Dustbuster. Those were the things that tell you, hey, guess what? This did not happen yesterday. So you could look at it as a period piece, kind of. But that's it. I appreciate you guys playing along. That's not too bad. You guys did pretty good on that.
I wonder how everybody did that. I gotta go look at the comments.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that I kind of took away from this is because he's got this OCD tendencies, he's really thorough about doing his job. Obviously, a lot of this doesn't come to this kind of town, having murder and intrigue and all that, but he's really good at doing his job. And it made me think of Monk. I don't know if you guys ever watched the TV show Monk. It's like saying, hey, somebody who has this much of a either OCD or anal retentive tendency is going to be somebody who can pick out clues more. Do you think that that's actually a thing?
It would seem so, right? If you're somebody that's annoyed by little details out of place, wouldn't you pay particular attention to the little details all the time?
Yeah, maybe.
Or does it connect the dots quicker so they can spend more time on the dog chewing up the house montages?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to
That's what we're all here for anyway, is the dog chewing up the house montage. That's really the reason you tune into this movie, is just for that. So
Star is the dog.
Yeah, Hooch is the star here.
Yeah,
Tom Hanks, got second billing. Should have.
they say never work with kids or animals, and I can't remember if it's because they steal the show or because they are difficult to work with. But
Yeah. Well, that was one of the
Definitely.
things. Remember earlier we talked about how many times I think Tom Hanks got bit by Hooch. There's the scene, and if you ever play with a big dog and the tug of war game, he's got this scene where he almost stumbles into it. I feel on camera where he stumbles into this tug of war with the dog, and he just goes with it. And he's got this very short kitchen towel, and he's pulling on it, and he carelessly reaches further to grab the towel, and from experience, I feel the dog's teeth on his hands when he reaches into the dog's mouth to grab that towel back. And I thought, boy, he must have gotten a few little nicks from Hooch in that scene. Because he's trying, this is the scene where he's trying to, there it is.
There it is.
Yeah. This is like one of the more aggressive play scenes. He gets it. Oh, yeah, I think he's, just get it, Hooch.
So
and
cute.
There's another one where he takes Hooch to the shower. And he's manhandling the
in
dog.
the sheet.
He's picking him up in
Yeah.
the sheet. He's moving him around, and
Covering
acting
his
or not,
head.
the dog is still a dog. And so, you wonder if the dog at some point is just going to hurt,
Well, again, I was too distracted by his I would not call him tidy black briefs. I don't know. It was too disturbing, and that's what was just
His
like
mini
my
Tom.
focus was gone.
Mini
Yeah,
Tom
but
Hanks was just
He
hanging
definitely
there.
seems to bond with the dog enough to bite him on the neck. Like,
Yes.
Oh,
he actually
that is-
gets a mouthful of fur here,
Yeah.
He spits it out.
and
on the dog.
then brings it up. Like, that's actually happening. Like, that's your award, like your Oscar nominated Tom Hanks right there, folks. That's your Oscar award winning Tom Hanks with a mouthful of dog. So,
And your favorite scene is the milk bone scene.
Yeah. Where, again, it felt like improv. That whole scene of him in the car on the stakeout with Hooch, that's one of the scenes that, when I think of this movie, that's the scene I think of. And he's got the milk bones. They're on the stakeout, and he's like, "Oh, let me see what I got for you here." This is where he comments on the shoelaces. And then after that, he pulls out a milk bone. He gives one to Hooch, and then he tries it. He does a little nibble at first, and then he takes a bigger bite. And he's like, "No, man, it tastes like health food."
health food. Yeah.
Health food. I think I tried a dog biscuit after I saw that.
Because of
in the
this?
movie.
So
Yeah,
impressionable.
I did.
Why didn't you try an apple? He ate one of those too.
Yeah, I know what those taste
Chocolate
like.
chip cookies.
Chocolate chip cookies, always good.
Oh,
Always good.
and then as a dog parent, any of us who've ever had dogs, it's like, don't give the dog chocolate.
Chocolate. You don't give them
Don't
chocolate.
ever give your dog chocolate. You can give him beer. That's fine. Don't give your dog chocolate.
He did. He gave
Here's
them
what
away.
I have a question for you though here. The whole thing is there is a cover up going on at the fish market about this like operation that they have where they're exporting money. Why? Like why? What? Like what? I don't understand like what the scam is here. If it was all counterfeit money, okay, that's a ruse I understand. Is like these are counterfeiters and they're getting counterfeit money out. Or if it's drugs that they're exporting, but they're exporting just actual cash. I don't get the bit. Like what are they doing?
Yeah, I didn't get it either. That was the one thing that kind of stuck out is how quickly they dismiss. Like Craig T. Nelson has one line where he's like, "I needed money and I didn't ask questions, and that's why we're here." And I'm like, but.
And that's like, and explain, la-di-da, back to the dog chewing things up. But that whole end, not only did it feel rushed, not only did it feel like I didn't get it, I watched it again and I thought, oh, okay, they explain it a little better if you watch it the second time. They talk about how they need to export the money so that they could import the drugs. But the money has to get exported somehow, and they do it in ice blocks. And, spoiler alert, get the red thing. But, it's like, what? Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So there was a movie called, it was in 1992. It was 3 years after this one. Aw, baby. People are going nuts. There was a movie 3 years after this called Mo Money, which I think I saw and no one else did. It had Damon Wayans in it. That movie to me was two different movies, and it should have been like a Beverly Hills Cop sort of a situation, but the first 2/3 of it was like sort of goofball comedy, and then the last third of it was just like this hard, gritty crime shoot 'em up movie. And I was like, did you get a new director along the way here, or did you piece this together, or were you getting to the end and you're like, well, we better wrap this up somehow? I'm getting those vibes. I know that's a random thing to like be reminded of, is this Mo Money movie, but it stuck with me forever. Is this one? It was like he's doing the stakeout. We don't really know why he did the stakeout, and then he brings
Right.
in Hooch.
Why didn't
Like
he
he
do
could
it
have
as a
just,
police officer with authorization, which he didn't do?
and he
You know,
could have
why
come
was he
in
doing
with
it illegally?
right the money. He could have come in with the money and in just that. And why did he spend the entire night watching? I don't know, because he got
Yeah.
some idea from hooking up with Emily that he was like, I've got it. And then we're like, what is it? Like, tell us, let us in on the bit. And then he goes and spends the entire night in a stakeout, which seems like just a vehicle to have that conversation and ad lib you were talking about. Like, this is
It's that
just a
scene.
reason for
Let's
them.
put this scene in here. We'll have him on a stakeout. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't seem to make any sense. He wakes up in the morning and then they go in and do the thing. It takes him like 3 minutes. And then after that, he gets a hunch about the hotel. He goes to the hotel and then, runs into the bad guy almost instantly. The whole thing with the seatbelt, and then, the darkness of like Hooch with his mouth around this dude's neck. It's like,
Oh yeah.
okay, what? And then again, I'm still like, what is the scam that they have here? What is, and it's, exporting money in these big, large ice blocks. But he comes back to the warehouse, and I haven't seen this movie in forever. I didn't grow up with it like you did. I didn't watch it 900 times and memorize everything and try dog biscuits. But with me, I got to, when he got back there, I was like, Craig T. Nelson's the bad guy. Like, I instantly was like, that's it, because you've got this character, this actor who was a bigger deal actor who we've been kind of avoiding from most of the movie. It had to be him. But then again, it didn't really, like, he's saying, who's the mastermind? Is it the guy that runs the plant? No, it's not him. And then, we find out that it's him when they turn the gun on each other. But I was like, it feels thin. I feel like the third act falls apart, I guess, is what I'm trying to tell you here.
I think because we're really just supposed to focus on the dog.
On the dog.
On the dog and the relationship and how warm it is. And in case you didn't know that, let's go to the final moment.
Yeah.
But
there's so that whole scene where you find out that it is the police chief, not only why, but why couldn't it have been the other guy? Like, why did the police chief have to be involved at all? I don't even get that. It felt as though they were reaching for that, I think.
Yeah. The other thing, this is the part that really struck me, is while Tom Hanks and Craig T. Nelson, are fighting, I'm thinking, this is Woody and Mr. Incredible. There they are, right there together. This is Woody and Mr. Incredible. The voices of both of those are in this. Yeah, they're in this heated, locked up battle here. Two guys that would go on to helm, Pixar movies as the lead, and they're here in this movie together. I mean, obviously that happens a lot in Hollywood where there's crossover in that, but this was the first time it ever dawned on me. It's like, because a lot of people, it's like Tom Hanks is Woody. Like you were talking about this, which character is he to you? Is he big? Is he Forrest Gump? I think Tom Hanks is Woody to a lot of people. So anyway, that was a side note. But Lauren, I think you were kind of addressing the elephant in the room, or rather the dog, is that Hooch gets shot. They go to the trouble to bring him all the way back to the vet. She seems to know that they're coming, even though there aren't really cell phones at this point, I don't think. And
I did think,
then she,
well,
right. He must have called her from
payphone. Yeah, maybe. I mean, or she could have just heard the siren. But they get him all the way into the operating room, and this is that moment where they're like tugging at our heartstrings. He's in the operating room, and we're like, "Why would you bring him?"
Disney movie.
This is when it falls apart as a Disney movie.
But why would you bring him all the way back and have this moment just to let him go?
Yeah.
Again, that was one of those
that would have been just as touching.
True, but they drug it out, right? Now, either they needed to make the movie a little longer because it's only an hour and 40 minutes, or they needed to. She needs a comfort gummy. It looks like. But
I had to do my. I haven't said anything, but I had to do my IMDb. I actually know a fact about that.
Oh. Okay.
They shot both endings, and then they ran it through a test audience.
Oh, they shot an ending where Hooch doesn't die. That exists somewhere.
Mm-hmm. So,
And test audiences preferred it when he died. Who are these people?
I think the powers
Did they
that
test?
be,
Did they test
little
it at a
kids.
maximum security prison, or
Right?
like? I mean, I don't
They
know.
liked the that
Trauma?
it evoked. They liked. There's very little trivia about this movie, considering the fact that it came out as long ago as it did.
Right.
But of course, I had to read it because I is who I is. But that was an interesting one because it was very. I actually turned to Maleko
Test
like
audiences.
I turned to Maleko and I said I forgot that he died. And I
Wow.
mean, I saw this movie when I was a little kid. That should have been what I
Because it
remember
doesn't make any
about this
sense.
movie.
As you remember the movie, he doesn't need to die.
Right.
Especially
Nope.
with what they do at the end.
Right.
And it's
Right.
like, oh, here's, I don't want to spoil
But
it.
see, that's almost cruel too.
And spoiled.
But that's almost cruel too, is that and again, I feel like if you guys have gotten to this point, you already know how this movie ends. But that's the thing too, and my wife did the same thing, Lauren. She was like, I forgot he died. I was like, how did you forget? Like, I remember this seemed like a cruel trick because he dies, and then they cut to him being married to Emily. Then the wife says, you got to go home, Chief. He goes home. And there are dogs in this like little pen, and she seems to be maybe pregnant, and she's like, oh, you got to go talk to him, and they make it seem like it's Hooch. They actually make it seem like it's Hooch, and I'm like, did he live? And then you find out at the end, it's like nah, I mean, he's a cutie pie, but they're like, okay, this is like Hooch's offspring here. That made it, but they lead you to believe, because they do a big reveal at the end that he's there,
that's because they shot it. They already shot it with him living, so they used the footage of him alive. Only they've already killed him because
that seems like
writer
it would have been
like
a better ending to me, though, because again, I don't like sad. I got lanced for saying that I didn't love Up as much as some other movies, and it's not that I don't love the movie or the characters. It's that my criteria when I ranked Pixar movies was how much do I want to watch them again, and Incredibles is number one for me. That's why I think of Mr. Incredible when I see Craig T. Nelson and not Coach or the bad guy from Turner and Hooch. But I was ranking them, and I have Up a little bit lower on my list and not at the bottom. But it's because I don't want to watch it because it's so sad. Like, I love the movie. It's very good, and it evokes a lot of feelings. But that's probably why I don't come back to this one either, or Old Yeller, or Dumbo, or Bambi, or any of them that I'm like, how about I just have a night? Let's do Encanto.
Stop killing
the
Roll that back.
They had to kill the parrot. It is a Disney movie.
Oh, that's
There
it.
it is.
They set you up for
Yep.
Hooch 2, where Hooch's father is dead. And that's the beginning of a classic Disney film.
Oh, there it is. By the way, Emily wanted 5 children. She made a big thing about that.
She
wanted
did.
5 kids, and I think there were 4
Plus the baby, 4 pets.
4 little pretty girls in the playpen, and then baby Hooch.
There you go. They left no detail out in the script, except for the last 15 minutes.
I mean, sure. So then there's another thing that happens. There wasn't a Turner and Hooch 2, I don't believe, was there? I don't think so. But there was a TV show.
Not unless you count the dog.
That Disney Plus made called Turner and Hooch with Josh Peck as Scott Turner.
Really?
And
that exists?
Yeah.
Why?
You didn't know that existed? It was one season. They've already pulled it off of Disney Plus because of all of those money-saving tactics they were doing. They pulled a bunch of stuff like the Benedict Society and Turner and Hooch and Big Shot and a couple of those other shows that Willow got pulled off. These things that we were promised and told would be on Disney Plus and live in our hearts forever. And they're like, oh, you know what? We could save some money if we don't. And we sell them to other people. So they'll probably turn up somewhere, I assume. But the fact that I couldn't go back and even absorb if I wanted to an episode of the show because it's not on Disney Plus anymore. So this was enough of a childhood memory for people outside of you, Maleko, that people were like, you know what? maybe we need to bring this IP back and not quite kill them off yet. Maybe we just have them like coexist together. But Reginald Vell Johnson was in it as David Sutton.
Okay.
So I don't
All right.
get that. I didn't watch it, so I don't know if like Josh Peck was Scott Turner Jr. But he is billed as Scott Turner in this, so I assume that he is still, it's still Scott Turner. So
If they were smart, they would just like wipe the old movie. I mean, keep the concept, but just start a new story. Reintroduce us to the guy, reintroduce us to the dog, reintroduce us to the concept of, dog and man.
Well, I mean, that concept's been there before, right? I mean, to some extent, you had Beethoven, to some extent, that movie that we watched that we didn't care much for, with the German Shepherd dog. It was just in theaters a couple of years ago, remember?
Oh, the one with Magic Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Was it called like A Dog's Life or something like that?
No, it was just called Dog.
Just Dog with
and it's
Channing Tatum.
It's Channing Tatum. He's on assignment for his military. On some assignment, he has to take a military dog who's retiring home, and it's the same movie essentially, where he has to solve a crime, and the dog destroys his life, and then at the end, of course, they're friends.
Okay.
So
I think it's not
totally the same movie, but I mean, it definitely borrows a lot from the camaraderie of Tom Hanks and Hooch in this one. Anyway, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
I feel like seeing it. I don't know.
Well, here again is the poster for it. It said everyone's best friend, Turner and Hooch. So it looks like it's basically the same.
And it doesn't exist anymore now. No one can see it. It's only
not on Disney Plus. They took it off. They made a big announcement of a bunch of things they were taking off of Disney Plus, and this was one of them. Is Turner and Hooch. So if you go to Disney Plus and search Turner and Hooch, you're gonna get this one. So,
all right.
But you know what?
This guy's very, very needy today. I apologize.
People love seeing the cat. That's the thing. I think hopefully we've covered everything you guys want to cover, because I think it's about time to wrap this up here. Anything that you want to cover before we do like a final wrap up? Any piece that we missed of it?
I think we got most of it. We did talk about the destruction scenes. Those honestly are some of my favorite moments of the film. the Hooch destruction scenes.
The only thing we didn't talk about that I wanted that like dawned on me was that there comes a time in this where Tom Hanks as Scott Turner decides, I'm not going to Sacramento, I'm staying here. And when he decides that, that's before this thing is wrapped up. I'm thinking to myself, you've just been training Reginald Vell Johnson as your replacement. If you decide to stay, what happens to him?
Right. Well, you have to kill the police chief to stay, which he does.
And they did, and it worked.
There you go.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Yeah. And apparently,
well, I mean, it worked itself out, but when... Yeah,
right.
It worked itself out, but when it was happening, I was just like, this doesn't feel right. I don't understand.
You know what? Just give him some credit on that. He decides he's going to stay after spending the night at the vet's house. That's kind of when he's decided. And he's like, I mean,
are we giving him credit?
Crazy things. People do crazy things for love. It's like...
Well, it was also a great opportunity when they were doing like the ghost move with the pottery, but they were doing the eggs in the kitchen and he's behind her.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was another great opportunity to see him with his clothes off. So thank goodness that they pulled that one together, because
you didn't ask how many scenes of that there were in the trivia. I mean, come on.
How many different scenes? How many different pairs of underwear do we see?
Oh, it's the same pair, I'm sure.
It could all be that same pair of black.
Yep.
I mean, if he's as OCD as we're theorizing, he's just got a drawer of nothing but the same type.
The same black.
Nope, that would make sense. That would absolutely make sense. All right, so I want to say a special thank you tonight to our WIGS members. We love our WIGS at WDWNT Interglobe Society, which is our Patreon. If you want to be part of our family, you can go and check out patreon.com/WDWNT. Don't forget, we have News Tonight on Thursday night, Park Center on Sunday night, and of course, next week we will be doing Deep in the Plus with our friend Patrick, who will come back, and we're going to talk about some more of those Disney 100 Years shorts that they've redone. And I hope that you guys will find a movie or a TV show to bring back, because I love hanging out with you guys and talking to you. But This is the time. This is the thing. This is the big deal. And your reputations are on the line here, my friends. I need
Oh
to know
man.
from each of you, and we'll start with Maleko because I can't wait to see what I feel like we know what he's going to say. Then we'll hear what Lauren has to say. But would you recommend this movie?
I would definitely recommend this movie. It's a classic cop buddy movie, and at the same time, it's a great family movie with a rambunctious dog. I think it's the original before all those other movies that we mentioned. And if you're going to appreciate those movies, you really got to go back and appreciate how good Tom Hanks is in this movie with the dog as his co-star.
All right, Lauren.
I think it's definitely a fun family movie. I don't think there are many anymore. I mean, everything we mentioned is an adult themed thing, like the dog. You just don't see as much of that whole, trained animal shtick as you used to in the 80s and maybe the 90s, like Beethoven. And so I think as far as a family movie goes, check it out. Especially, it's Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks in his black underwear. I would also recommend this movie. I'm not sure this is the first thing I'd recommend on Disney Plus, nor the first Tom Hanks thing on Disney Plus. We've reviewed Splash. I think we still need to review Big at some point, but I do think it's a good movie. It's a solid movie. In 1989, 33 years later, or 34 years later, it still stands up. So I would recommend it. I think it's a good one. I would say to anybody who hasn't seen it, you haven't seen Turner and Hooch? Where have you been? Like if you lived under a rock, everybody's seen Turner and Hooch. Tango and Cash, I can forgive you if you didn't see that one, but Turner and Hooch, you need to make sure to see that one. So again,
And if you're still watching and you haven't seen Turner and Hooch,
don't bother.
I'm sorry, I spoiled it for you.
No red ring. I apologize. Yep. You're right. I need to retheme everything now. You've made me rethink life. So thank you for doing that. Thank you guys for being on. I can't wait to talk to you guys again about something else. I appreciate you. But everyone else, have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Bye.